rights. We're very honored to have this be the second year that HFHR has helped to convene this Interfaith Action for Palestine. And it is just, I don't have the words for how powerful of an honor it is really to be here in space and in community with you all, carrying the weight of everything that we have seen unfold over the last almost 2 years of this genocide in Gaza, but really not just the last 2 years, the last 3/4 of a century since the Nakba, because we know that the genocide in Palestine did not start on October 7th, 2023. It has been going on for the better part of a century, and it will continue to go on until our leaders have the moral courage and our leaders are pushed to do the right thing, to stop their support for Israel's genocide, for the bombardment of innocent men, women, and children. I'm here on behalf of Hindus for Human Rights. We're an organization that organizes progressive Hindus in the diaspora in the US, but also across the diaspora to stand up against caste, against Hindutva or Hindu nationalism. And in that work, we really take inspiration from, in particular, our siblings in the anti-Zionist Jewish community who have shown us both the challenges but also the power of resisting the forces of hate and religious nationalism within your community when there are so many in our families and our extended circles, community networks telling us that our safety is bound up in fascist movements that rely on the dehumanization and oppression of other people. And it is really our siblings in the Jewish community who have paved the way for us as we began that very difficult but very necessary work of doing the same in the Hindu community. I'll be honest with you all and say that I think unlike a lot of other folks who have taken the stand here, probably a lot of people here in the audience, I have never been an especially religious person. I was raised in a Hindu family. I identify as Hindu, that's why I'm here. But I've always struggled with the idea of religion, and growing up, we would go to the temple every so often when I was a kid. I never understood the Sanskrit prayers. I never understood what all the rituals meant. It never really resonated with me. And in some ways, I think that alienated me from what it meant to be a Hindu. But in other ways, I think it helped me because what it meant was there were certain elements of Hinduism, the very basic principles, these core beliefs, these certain stories, those few that actually did get through to me really distilled down to the core of why I still call myself a Hindu, why I'm not identifying as an atheist or something else, right? Why do I still identify with that label? It's because of a handful of these core beliefs, these core stories that stuck with me from the time I was a kid. And I want to share one of those with you that hopefully will help illustrate why I'm here as a Hindu in this Interfaith Action for Palestine. It's a story from the Upanishads, which is one of the many sacred texts in Hinduism. And it's the story of a young man named Chandogya. He's the son of and the student of a great sage, and he comes home from his studies and having studied the Vedas and scriptures and so on. And his father, his teacher, is asking him what he's learned, and is trying to explain to him this core idea of the divine universal that pervades the universe. And he's realizing that Chandogya just isn't quite getting it. He's not quite, even though he spent years studying these scriptures, studying everything, he doesn't quite understand what this is really about. And so what his father does is he tells Chandogya, they're sitting under a banyan tree, and he says, go to that branch of the tree and bring me one of the fruits from the tree. And he does. And then he says, Chandogya, I want you to break that fruit in half. Tell me what you see inside. So Chandogya breaks the fruit, and he says, I see a bunch of little black seeds. And then his father says, take one of those seeds, break it in half. Tell me what you see inside that seed. And he does it. And he says, well, I don't see anything. There's nothing there. And then his father looks at him and says, but out of that nothing grows this banyan tree that we're sitting underneath. There is something there, that's something that we cannot see, we can't touch, we can't perceive it, but it is so powerful that it can grow into this enormous tree that is providing us fruit, is providing us shade. And then he says, in Sanskrit he says, Tattvamasi, you are also that. And that is really the core belief of what it means to me to be a Hindu. The idea that this recognition that there is some incomprehensible, ungraspable, divine energy, something, I don't know what to call it, but it binds all of us together. It exists in every single living being, and you can call it whatever you want. So many traditions have different names for it. Yesterday for folks who were at the choir action outside of Gaylord, Rabbi Abby Stein was talking about in the Jewish tradition of Betzon Elohim, the idea that all are made in the image of the divine. To me, that is the same fundamental idea, right? This idea that there is divinity in all of us, that we are also that. And so when I see what is happening in Gaza, when I see the bombardment of human beings, this desecration of human life and human dignity, it's not just the desecration of humanity. It's not just the desecration of life. It's the desecration of the divine. And that desecration is being carried out by people who claim to be acting in the name of faith, in the name of God, whatever God they claim to represent. Right now, in National Harbor, there's a conference of Christian Zionists who are claiming that their undying support for Israel, for the Zionist movement, is being carried out in the name of God, that it is their duty as people of faith. I can't think of anything more morally bankrupt and spiritually corrupted than that. And even to someone who is I can't think of anything more spiritually corrupted than that. And I don't know if it makes me more sad or more angry. Because I, like I said, am not an especially religious person. But I know, I've seen in the people around me, what religion means to people. The transformative impact it can have on people's lives. How could you treat something so sacred with so much disrespect? I don't know, but I know that what we are doing here, what we as bring together Jews, Hindus, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, people of so many traditions, together to stand up for justice, to stand up for liberation, that feels like more of an act of piety, that feels like more of an act of getting in touch with the divine than all the rituals, all the prayers, all the ceremonies of these religious institutions that don't want to talk about these issues because they don't want to be political, they don't want to alienate segments of their community. It doesn't matter. You could spend your entire life, I think, studying the scriptures in any tradition, but if you're not willing to actually go out into the streets, put your body on the line, demand from your leaders and your elected representatives that they do the right thing, and that you stand up for justice and for the dignity and divinity of every human being, then I'm sorry, you're not a person of faith. You're a person who claims to represent faith. And so I just want to say again, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you to everyone who has put countless hours and sleepless nights into making an action of this scale happen. I know folks have traveled from all over the country to be here today, and I know that when you go back to wherever you come from, whether it's here in DC or whether it's the other side of the United States, that you will continue to carry the spirit of rage, of the spirit of solidarity with you, and that we'll continue to fight until Palestine is free from the river to the sea. Thank you so much.